Okay, calm down.
You, during a recent interview, said that France is at war with Africa. So, can you just give some examples of where that's happening and what this war looks like?
Well, Niger is a clear example. There was a coup on July 26, interestingly enough, the 70th anniversary of the attacks on the Makata barracks in Cuba. And since that time period, it's quite interesting as well, France has supported the idea of a military intervention in Niger. I mean, this is a country of 2.5 million people. Although it's rich in uranium and other strategic metals and minerals. So they want Mohamed Bazoum, who was an ally of France and the United States, reimposed on Niger. Even though they claimed he was elected democratically, there was nothing democratic about the way in which Niger was being used and still is being used by Paris and Washington. The United States has two military bases in Niger. France has, they say, 1,800 of their troops in Niger. The United States supposedly has 1,100 troops. And you know, there has to be Central Intelligence Agency and State Department functionaries there as well. And there's the presence of other NATO countries in Niger. And at the same time, they're still having security issues, and the majority of the people are impoverished there. So France clearly wants to maintain this scenario. They want to maintain their access and control of the uranium resources in Niger. The company that owns the majority of the uranium there is a French corporation. And they want to maintain their military forces there, and they don't want any challenge. The only thing that's really slowed them down is the broad anti-French sentiment that's grown throughout West Africa, not just in the former French countries, colonies, but also in some of the former British colonies, for example, Nigeria. Even though the president there, Bola Tinubu, wanted to engage in an intervention in neighboring Niger, the people in Nigeria have come out strongly. And these are not necessarily the radicals there. These are people who are part of his own political party, the All Progressive Congress. His Senate, the upper house of the legislative branch in Nigeria, a country of more than 220 million people, the largest populated country in Africa, came out and said, no, utilize diplomatic means to resolve the crisis in Niger. And that has been echoed through other countries throughout the region. In Ghana, whose government right now is very pro-American. The masses there in Ghana and Nigeria and in other countries have opposed this whole concept of the Economic Community of West African States, which is an economic union. It really doesn't have a mandate to engage in military interventions. And if there was an ECOWAS invasion of Niger, it would clearly be supported logistically in regard to intelligence and aerial coordinates by the United States and France. We've seen this happen in other countries like Yemen, for example, starting in 2015, where even though they made it appear as if the Saudi government and the UAE government were bombing the country of Yemen, in actuality, the United States was supplying the fighter aircraft, the ordnance, these surveillance, and the coordinates. This is done by the intelligence, military intelligence, and the Central Intelligence Agency. So if there was an intervention in Niger, it would clearly be coordinated by NATO with France and the United States in the lead. So this could not happen because it would be disastrous. We've already seen what happened in Afghanistan for at least 2 decades. And the US had to leave Afghanistan 2 years ago in shame and in defeat. We've seen what's happened in Iraq. The country has been severely damaged. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed there. And even today, the government that is in power in Iraq still wants the United States to take its remaining forces out of the country. Syria is another example of what has happened there. Libya, I mentioned Libya earlier. They destroyed the country, and it still does not have a internationally recognized, cohesive, and unified government in that North African state, which is rich with oil and other resources strategically located on the Mediterranean.
Right.
Haiti is another example.
And they have a real rebirth of the slavery industry.
Yes, the human trafficking there is atrocious. Even the United Nations says that 108 million people have been dislocated in the world today. And they don't go as far as to say it's due to the war on terror, but obviously it is. If you look at what's going on in Libya, what's happened in Syria, in Afghanistan, and the other countries that are being destroyed economically, you have all of these people who are attempting to flee their home countries. They're going to Southern Europe, they're going to Israel, they're going to Central Europe, Western Europe, and it's just creating more consternation in those countries. Even here in the United States, on the southern border, a lot of the people who are coming across are not necessarily from Mexico or Central America. A lot of them are from other countries, other geopolitical regions, like the African continent, for example, the Caribbean.
Right.
And there's no focus on this by the Biden administration, and the Republican leadership in the Congress has turned a blind eye as well.
He assigned Kamala Harris to take care of the immigration issue, and all she does is say she's looking at root causes. She never actually looks at root causes or outlines what they are. It's just a talking point for her.
Yeah, it's interesting. He had said that more than a year ago, but I don't see any real work that's being done to resolve the situation on the southern border. I think they prefer to ignore it at this point because the elections are coming up
Right.
in another 14 months. And but I don't know if they're going to be able to ignore it because in New York City, for example, the mayor there, who's a former police officer, who's no radical, but he has really been slamming the Biden administration for not addressing the migrant question in New York City. And other mayors are angry about it as well. And New York City, obviously, and New York State is a key part of the Democratic Party electoral strategy for 2024. They cannot afford to alienate people in New York City, New York State.
Were you mentioning Haiti? I think I maybe cut you off by accident, and you were talking about Haiti.
Yes,
Yeah.
we remember in 2004, which was the bicentennial for Haiti, their revolution against France that was consolidated in January of 1804. There was a coup, and it was an invasion by the United States, France, and Canada to overthrow the elected president, John Bertrand Aristide. He was kidnapped, he was taken to the Central African Republic and left there. And eventually he was able to get political asylum in the Republic of South Africa. Yet since that time period, almost 2 decades, Haiti has been destabilized. And now they're talking about sending another interventionist force into Haiti, led by Kenya, which is very close, unfortunately, to the United States and Britain. I think this is a huge mistake, and they should open up the political system in Haiti to allow multi-party elections. And I think that will go a long ways in regard to calming down the situation that is there now. The poverty there is unbearable. You have the rise of street gangs, who are engaging in all types of violence against civilian population there. So I don't think an intervention backed by the United States would do any good in Haiti because they already have U.S. troops there ostensibly guarding the United States embassy in Port-au-Prince. So I think that an intervention by Kenya or other countries backed by the U.S. and France and probably Canada would not improve the security situation in Haiti.
Right. And I'm sure would not be motivated by the democracy and human rights concerns that they would be citing.